Hey everybody, Wade and Ryan here, NFL in London, as we head into week 10, and we're going to talk about
Oh my.
week 9, as well as we hit the trade deadline. And oh my gosh, there were some teams. We could talk about, we'll go through some of the trades, but um, just off, obviously the Jets got rid of a lot of talent. Does it feel like a certain teams were getting ready for playoff pushes, or some teams have just given up?
You know what I don't understand? I was thinking about this, and it was about like GMs only really are relevant a lot of times, other than Howie Roseman on Philly, who's always making trades. But like, they're only always relevant at draft time, right? Is it the reason? I just don't understand why some of these teams, like Kansas City, who desperately needs a running back, who Lamar, who could all, like Baltimore, who could definitely use about Buffalo could use a receiver, and all these GMs are like, no, I'm not gonna. I value my picks because it's the only time anyone ever talks about me
Yeah.
is that time of year. Like, then if I trade away my picks, then what am I going to do on draft day while all the other GMs are handed in that sheet of paper? I don't get to do it. It's crazy to me. It's like they're so hoarders of these picks, like they're 100% success rate. Like these things never
Yeah.
miss when they're like 40%, 30% success rate right off the bat. And these guys are like, no, I would never trade a fifth round pick for Shaheed,
Yeah.
which
Rashidi.
we
Yeah.
desperately need. And it's just wild to me that it's either the hubris of these GMs and they just like, oh, nothing's worth my first round pick. Oh, I could never. Meanwhile, the Rams did it for like 6 years in a row and they made the playoffs
Yeah.
like every year and won a Super Bowl. So I just don't understand GMs. They're just weirdos who they like talk like, oh, wheeling and dealing, and they're just all it'd be like the worst poker game ever where everyone folds
Yeah.
every hand forever and the pot never gets big.
Well, let's talk about some of them because it does seem, you talk about that, and then you do mention Howie Roseman. And, the Eagles did make a few defensive adjustments and trades to be able to shore it up because I think a lot of people are going, are the Eagles that demonstratively good? And maybe they will be. The Jets, they traded, they received Jasir Taylor from the Chargers for a 7th round pick, but then it starts getting weird when they trade Quinnen Williams, defensive lineman,
Ah,
from to Dallas, and then of course Sauce Gardner as well. So
yeah,
when
listen,
we start,
I think the Jets did a good move there. I think that's smart. I think they just saw the writing on the wall. I think if you're Glenn, you must think like, oh, I'm going one and done this year because I have
yeah,
no chance of lasting. It's been a disaster. This feels like, round up as many picks as you can get. The fact that they got two for Sauce Gardner, because again, Sauce Gardner is great, but
yeah,
again, you're like 3, 4 years away from this thing working. By the time that happens, Sauce Gardner is like 28, 29, kind of diminishing. Get rid of him, get some
yeah.
picks. The Dallas one, Quentin Williams is great. You're getting Dallas's pick, which could be, top 15, top 10,
Second
even the
round
way
pick,
Dallas.
27 first round pick, and defensive lineman
Oh,
Mazzie
27
Smith
first
as
round. Who
well.
knows what it's going to be? But it's
Yeah,
it's just they're kind of just waving the white flag, the Jets, and they just kind of
yeah,
know that this isn't going to work. And the funny thing is, it's like if they're kind of stuck with now, they're going to be stuck with a pissed off Garrett Wilson because how do you sell this to Garrett Wilson? Unless you get the
yeah.
number one pick and you're getting this like generational guy who can come in and give him the targets he needs, because you're gonna have a tough sell to him because he's kind of the only player on your team now, like that's kind of worth anything.
Brees
Except for,
Hall too.
you've got
Yeah,
some offensive linemen, so you have to like this is a tank for the quarterback position, obviously. But they've had a chance. They had Darnold, they had Zach Wilson. I mean, they're
yeah.
the Jets. Who says they're gonna even get it right? So it's another rebuild. It's like this tweet I saw: if you weren't here for the rebuild, don't be here for the next rebuild. It's
Rebuild.
just
No, exactly. It is interesting too after the whole Micah Parsons trade and Dallas picking up Quinnen Williams. Um, obviously he's got some mustard left in him, and so you go, okay, why'd you trade him away? Is this gonna be the same sort of thing? Interesting for Dallas as well. They get Logan Wilson, and Cincinnati gets a pick out of that. So it's just interesting. Dallas, like, I don't think they really have to they're going to go on a playoff run with the
well,
team that they
Dallas.
have.
Yeah. Yeah, Dallas trades for Bengal, who's been benched on defense. So what
Yeah.
does that say? Like, that's what you want. Historical. I just don't understand what Dallas is doing. I feel like they just made a move to make a move.
Yeah.
It just reeks of desperation. I think because and Quinn Williams is a good player, but he hasn't been that good
Yeah.
this year. And again, yes, you've been getting gashed in the run, but he's not gonna. And even again, unless you get some big moves next year, you're paying big money for Quinn Williams now. Like all this
Yeah.
money that you were saving from not having to pay Micah Parsons, you're now going to have to pay towards Quinn Williams. So it's not even
Yeah.
like it's just I don't understand. Jerry's just going senile, I think.
Yeah.
And in regards with Indianapolis, I I just think Indianapolis is putting way too much confidence in Daniel Jones in December and January. I just feel like
Yeah.
as good as Daniel Jones is, we saw and we saw kind of
The game last week. Yeah.
the game last week, which is a classic Daniel Jones game, right? Daniel Jones
Yeah.
when he's not in perfect situation in a dome where he's running a bit on grass, a bit on the right. It's a lot tougher situation for him, and he
Yeah.
stunk. He had a Daniel Jones game where it was just
Yeah.
and now you're just sitting there being like, now you watch that game and you're like, we're all in. We're all going all in,
Yeah.
trading their picks. Because again, if you were going to do anything to get another, unless they're just maybe they're like, hey, if this doesn't work, Anthony Richardson will give him one last chance, which seems crazy
Yeah.
considering how good the rest of your team is. But I think it's going to be come January, this could be like a Darnold situation where everything looks great, and then the last 2 weeks hit, and it's like, uh-oh, we're in trouble. We need some big wins from Daniel Jones. And he vomits on himself. And then the playoffs, he goes one and done. Even if you're the one seed, he goes one and done with the one seed. And you're like, is this the guy? Then you let him go. He
Yeah.
goes somewhere and he's going to be amazing. You risk that Darnold thing. It's like now these teams are just kind of stuck, like if in these situations, because the fear of not having a quarterback and being what Minnesota turned into this year is would be
Yeah.
terrifying. Is like a lesson to Indianapolis.
And it's also one of those sort of benchmarks too, as the Colts and the Falcons are heading into Germany this weekend. So, you wonder how times the international games shake it up, and is this going to be a decline for them? I mean, Sauce Gardner's great, but they gave away first round pick next year, 2027 first round pick, and wide receiver AD Mitchell, who wasn't really doing anything for them. For me, it was interesting only because two of the players I have in my fantasy teams both traded teams. Rashid Shaheed, who you mentioned earlier from the Saints, is now on the Seahawks, which is Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's got a second guy now as well, and this guy's got some speed. And Jacoby Myers, which was interesting for a fourth and a sixth round pick that Las Vegas gave away. Jacksonville, you sort of wonder, okay, sure, Brian Thomas Jr. is, you're trying to add more guys, and because of Travis Hunter going down, is this going to be enough to the Jags? Because they haven't really they've sort of looked inept. They haven't looked like they're going to go on a playoff push, even though they have a winning record. So that's interesting. I think also then the big thing is you get Baltimore, who just signed Jair Alexander from the Packers, give him away to the Philadelphia Eagles for 2027 seventh round pick, and they get a seventh round pick, and Baltimore gets a sixth round pick next year. I guess he was just not working. I mean, Baltimore is obviously trying to make their push now, but it just seems like he was such a demonstrative player on the Packers, and he just didn't really make an impact on Baltimore. And now he's gone.
Well, I mean, corners get old quick. They're the quickest, probably, players in football that age. They're the ones that retire at halftime, right? Like Devontae Smith in the Bills. And there was another guy this year had a terrible game. He's like, I'm out. I just think when you watch these young guys just fly past you, as you're chasing them, you're like, I should retire as you're just running after them. So I think it happens to all of us. It happens to me chasing my child sometimes, and I'm like, I should just stop this. This is embarrassing. I can't even catch a child. But I think the Rashid Shaheed trade is a great little trade for them. I think they've been so dependent on Jackson Smith-Njigba, and I think again, if they get lined up in a game where they're doubling him all day, they're gonna need someone else because again, Cooper Kupp's older now. He's kind of on his last legs.
And he's been on injuries as well. He's had some injury problems. They don't know if he's going to come back.
And then to have someone like Shaheed who can really is a deep threat and can kind of really open things up for everything, I think it really enhances the chance for Sam Darnold to win MVP this year the way he's playing. I think again he's maybe in a couple of weeks when they're all acclimatized and all playing together. I think he's going to be having games every week, especially the way Njigba's been playing. That he's on pace for over 2,000 yards. So, I mean, Minnesota must be kicking themselves right now. Everyone in Minnesota and the Jets and the Jets.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the other thing, Philadelphia as well. They picked up two cornerbacks, Jair Alexander and Michael Carter. They got Michael Carter from the Jets, Jair. So Philadelphia has really gone into the cornerbacks. Michael Carter is solid player, and you sort of wonder how it's going to be now that Philadelphia is like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're ready to win. We got to get Saquon involved, and it does seem like the Eagles to me made the most amount of changes. That it's like, yeah, we're ready to roll for another repeat title. It'll be
Yeah,
interesting just to
it was. Yeah, I guess there's just who knows. I guess people ask too much. We just don't really know what happens. You always want your team to make that move, to kind of spite. But I just guess, like again, I just don't understand. GMs are weird. Like you'd think if you were a GM, you'd want to be like a Howie Roseman, always wheeling and dealing, being the guy that
yeah.
everyone's kind of jealous of. Again, getting Jalen Phillips was a great little signing. Like Jalen Phillips, when healthy, is a good defensive guy that you can put in your rotation and keep getting pressure because we saw that's how Philly won the Super Bowl last year was that front four pressure, and they lost a bunch of those guys because of how good they played that game, and they haven't been able to get it back. So again, Harry Roseman gets a third round pick, and he always gets third pick like compensatory picks anyway. So it's not even like he loses them. He just kind of just gives one of those away, and he gets another one. So it's like playing with house money. Basically, coupons.
Yeah, it's a 3-card Monty just shuffling around. Where's the pick? Where's the pick gone? Where'd the pick go? The good thing is for Bears as well, we picked up defensive end Joe Tyron Shanika. So, I mean, obviously the Bears defense has been hobbled and hurt, so that should help to have a defensive end. That should bring us into maybe talking, because those were sort of the trades. Well, let's talk about some of the games from last week. Let's talk about that Bears Bengals game. 89 points in total in this one. And I'm watching this game. The fourth quarter was just absolute cinema. And of course I'm screaming at it when we've got this 13-point lead, and then Flacco brings them back. You're like, what the hell? And then our first pick, Colston Loveland, had a great game.
Finally,
and Menage had 176 yards. But this was just emotion. This was like pure just adrenaline. Crazy game. The Bears get the win by 5, 47-42. I was just screaming at the TV at this game. It was just so exciting.
It was a season saver, especially to give up that lead in such a short amount of time. An onside kick, and then it just shows that what is going on. And then this is the game that literally broke the Bengals. You could see their offensive players in the locker room were just like, "What the fuck?" They're like, "Come on, defense, make one stop." It wasn't that hard. It was a terrible last touchdown, missed tackles everywhere. But Loveland had a great game. He finished off. He did what kind of, again, Bengals just do what bad teams do, and with bad teams with bad defenses. And it just kind of shows this idea that, Joe Burrow's like, just give me T. Higgins and Jamar and I'll show you. It's like, I don't think Joe Burrow would have done that much better out there.
470 yards for Flacco and 4 touchdowns. 470 yards for a 41-year-old man.
He could be like an MVP out there playing with these guys. I think, imagine every quarterback in the league must think, like, imagine I had Chase and Higgins throwing to, Josh Allen would throw for like 6,000 yards. So would Mahomes, Lamar.
Yeah.
Like all these guys would. But the one thing I'll say about the Bears that surprised me is Roma Dunze, 0 points, 0 catches in a game.
Well, his dad is on Twitter going, time to get maybe try to put him with a quarterback who throws to him.
Listen, we'll trade for him, but just wild to me on my fantasy team to think that many points got put up with your quarterback putting up like 36, 40 fantasy points, 0 to your number one target. So again, it's and that really,
well, DJ Moore was used quite a bit more. The tight ends were used a bit more. So the ball was spread around. He's still taking too long with the ball. But it was a defensive debacle on both teams. The fact that you can let another team roll a 40 burger on you so easily, and that's what you're just like back and forth. Like when Flacco, I mean, where's our D? Why are you not covering Higgins? Why are you not covering Chase? It's just, and Flacco's just, I mean, it's 1, 2, 3. There he goes.
They are good.
What?
They are fantastic players.
They're worth the money, but it's not worth the money when your team loses.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another NFC North battle, because we'll go into a few of the games. But the Lions, J.J. McCarthy comes back. He looks just like he was in the fourth quarter against the Bears. 2 touchdowns. Flores was able to choke and throw a lot of moves at Goff that they just couldn't get it. They couldn't get the running game going. They shut down the run, and the Vikings on the road get the win, 27-24. It's a big game. Detroit was just frustrated. I mean, it was 14-0 at one point, and then it was just the Lions could not make anything happen.
Yeah, they just couldn't get anything going watching the Lions. Everything was tough. They can't get Jahmyr Gibbs going in the passing game at all. That used to be like a real dynamic thing what they've been able to do with Montgomery and Gibbs again. And it's just that often we always see these Goff games. He has these great games, but then every now and then Flores, you blitz him, you hit him, you make his life a bit of living hell. They kind of crumble, and it's the big worry you have about if you're Detroit. It's like again, unless Goff is at home with the 1 seed, which it doesn't look like he's going to have now, with the way things are going, if their schedule gets a bit tougher. And I just think this is always going to be a problem with this team. I just think it's that consistency of getting win after win, especially now that Ben Johnson's gone, he probably would have a field day with that team. And now, they've lost the defensive core. So the Lions are just a bit of a mess right now. You just don't, but it was JJ McCarthy just being able to kind of go out there and have that game, I think is just a career saver. Kind of like when Bryce had that really good game last year. And let's just hope he can kind of now stack another game on top of that. Because Bryce, we're watching this now and it still doesn't look good. Even though Bryce did, beat the Packers with 100 yards.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that game because this was a game where the Packers just looked hapless. They looked like they couldn't get anything going as Rico Dowdle was running all over them. But Love looked like crap. The defense didn't look good. 16-13. I mean, it was 7-6 at the half, and you could just see that the Packers just had no clue. I know they're playing the Eagles on Monday Night Football this week. Were they just looking over the Panthers? Because the Panthers and Rico were just having a field day on them. And Ryan Fitzgerald kicks it and wins the game, and Packers take a loss for you. Like, you lost to the Browns and you lost to the Panthers.
I know. It felt like I was watching the same game, to be honest with you. It was just it was just like no matter what. It's like you can't even, other than the fact that Dowdle played really well, like Bryce Young was terrible. Like he threw for 100 yards. You should not be winning this game, especially when Jordan Love coming off last week, the best game of his career probably. He's feeling himself. Christian Watson was back, and then, I think losing Tucker Kraft, I think really took a lot of wind out of this team. I think losing that kind of just sucked him away because he was so dominant that game before. Even on tight end day, he's been great all year. It's just been kind of like the new Gronk out there. He just runs so hard, and like Kittle, and it was great to have another one in the league, but now it's just going to get trickier for them because he was such a part. Jaden Reed's not really healthy or contributing anymore. Dobbs has his moments. They can't really get Golden going. So I think they got to They got to get Josh Jacobs going back. They got to get that running game going because when they were at their best was last year when Jacobs was able to run downhill, and it opens up everything because it's going to be trickier now. You don't have Tucker Kraft to get you those easy yards. You got to depend on the wideouts, and they haven't been the most dependable guys. But terrible loss. And Mike
especially going into
0 pressures for the first time in his career. So it was as bad as it gets.
It was a big effort for them. We'll go through another couple of games. We'll go into the Steelers game because the Steelers 6 turnovers they forced against the Colts. The Colts were able to get 13 points in the fourth quarter, but it was all Pittsburgh in this one. 17 points in the second half. Aaron Rodgers looking good. Jonathan Taylor was not going. He only had 45 yards. Daniel Jones was just looking like New York Giants Daniel Jones. And although Pittman had 115 yards, it was all Aaron Rodgers in the defense, that Pittsburgh defense, who the fans had a funeral like a casket for the defense before the game. And you're just watching it going, oh, my God, they just, you couldn't even do it.
No, it was bad. I think Pittsburgh heard it all week, most expensive defense in the league, playing like the worst, and they deserved it, that they almost lost to the Jets. They had that terrible. Mike Tomlin just hasn't been able to get that defense, which has always been the staple, and they're kind of old. And I think they kind of just answered that bell because Indianapolis, forcing 3 turnovers, couldn't get Jonathan Taylor going 45 yards. And it was just dominant from the beginning. It's just like no matter what you were watching, it just felt like, even though it was 27-20, it felt worse. It never felt that close. It never felt like it was a 1-score game. You kind of needed Aaron Rodgers to almost give this game back to them to give them a chance to go in because, when Detroit were one, even Daniel Jones still threw for 342 yards. He was just throwing it all over the
Yeah.
place because they couldn't get any running game going. So I think this is more of a blip than a worry. I think Daniel Jones kind of comes back and has a big game next week. But good win for Pittsburgh because they needed this, especially with Baltimore back nipping at their
Yeah.
heels. So I think that was a huge win for Pittsburgh to kind of also silence the doubters of stopping a huge offense coming into your house.
Well, yeah, and you could see that the confidence on Aaron Rodgers is starting to grow. Also, they've just traded for Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So, I mean, he was off it. So, MVS is back, and I mean, that opens it up because Rodgers always finds him somewhere. There's always something. Those two just have this synergy. So, it's going to be interesting to see with Pittsburgh, with him, what the kind of changes will be. We had talked about this Texans team and the Broncos, but the Broncos struggled. This was like trying to wash a cat, this game. They could not get it done. I mean, Davis Mills and his long neck was in there. CJ Stroud will be out again. Bo Nix struggled in this one, 18 for 37 for 173 yards. Texans were keeping them going, but they get the win. They rally with 11 points in the fourth quarter. But it was looking like it was all going to be Texans until the Broncos came back in it.
It was as bad as football as it gets, to be perfectly honest with you. Like 137 yards, 17 for 30, Davis Mills. Again, you never expect anything. This offense is terrible. The fact that this is, again, two great defenses, and you've even seen it with everyone going up against the Texans. They make it so hard for you to pass it, to get anything going. And the fact that these are, again, two bad offenses going against two elite defenses. This is the only type of game you're going to get is a field goal battle of Fairburn. Fairburn kicked so much, I think he hurt himself this game because he was out there so often. But again, I think it was just, again, the dagger in Houston season. Maybe they can come back because AFC is kind of weak. But the fact that the Chiefs are one game out of the playoffs, doesn't bode well to be like that. The Texans be like, yeah, we need to catch the Chiefs and the rest of them. So, I mean, if they can't get any of like Nico Collins and Stroud and Tank Dell back together, I mean, and they still don't have Joe Mixon, and depending on it's a mess. It's a mess. Yeah. There's a lot to fix in Houston, and I think you might even see the coach, D'Amico, who was like hailed as one of the great coaches, might be on the hot seat if this continues because. It looked like they were on top of the world. Great defense, young ascending quarterback, and it's just gone downhill.
Yeah, 2 years ago, they're feted as being, okay, give them next year and they'll be the champs, and now they've just got a losing season. Speaking of losing seasons, we'll talk about another quick game. It's the Jags and the Raiders. I had Brock Bowers. I was playing him in fantasy and 40 points. Thank you, fella.
I lost.
30 to 29. Jaguars win this one. Lawrence get it together, but the Raiders were looking like they really wanted this game. 14 points in the fourth quarter. They're going at it. Of course, Jacksonville 17. They tried to go for 2 points and they couldn't win this one. So Trevor Lawrence gets the win in this one. Geno Smith 4 touchdowns, 284 yards. 3 of them, of course, to Bowers. But it's not looking good for the Raiders, and I think all signs are like, okay, well, we're 2-6 now, so and 1-3 at home, so not looking good for them.
Right. Well, and they traded, Jacoby Myers. So now it's like if you're playing, I guess if you're doing bets, or you're placing bets or doing anything, just bet on Brock Bowers over every week because they're going to just be feeding this guy balls like left, right, and center. I think 12 receptions. Injured again, probably. His hands are going to break from catching so many balls. Again, it was a classic Trevor Lawrence win. Look at this: 220 yards and a pick, no touchdowns. Yeah. That you scored 30 points and your quarterback throws no touchdowns. So that just kind of shows what a mess this kind of game is. I just hate everything about the Jags. I hate watching them. I don't. The fact that they're 5-3, holding on to the playoffs. I just don't see them as a playoff team. I think when the dust settles, I think they're going to be exposed, especially when it come winter, when it gets even harder and teams are more banged up. I think the Jags are in deep trouble. So, and again, the fact that Brian Thomas Jr. at least kind of had a little bit better, but they're a mess. They're a mess. The Raiders are a mess, but we kind of knew that. And Pete Carroll looks kind of lost as an old dude. It's like maybe you don't hire the 70-something-year-old coach. Maybe that would be my suggestion. Let him get a job at Walmart. Be a bit ageist in your hires sometimes.
Let's talk about your game as the Bills go on to choke the Chiefs. It was 21-13 at the half, but the Bills just kept it on. Chiefs get 8 points in the fourth quarter, but that's not enough. Dalton Kincaid had a great game. Josh Allen finding him. Allen 273 yards, but he was 23 for 26. That was the accuracy that really killed him. The defense was smothering Mahomes. He could not get anything going. You could see the frustration on the Chiefs' face. We talked about this in the last podcast. The Bills were building a team to beat the Chiefs, and this is what they did.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great game to watch. It terrifies me now because we beat them in the regular season, so we're definitely going to lose in the playoffs if we meet. But I think the fact that they were able to do the one thing they've never been able to do, which is hit Mahomes. They hit him 15 times this game. They had his worst passing percentage, I think 44%, the worst in his career, Patrick Mahomes. So the fact
That was like the Super Bowl all over.
Yeah, it kind of felt like that. And they were just all over and being able to kind of do. And even though it was 28-21, it didn't feel that close. Buffalo just, hit the crossbar to make it not a two-score game, giving the kind of Chiefs a chance with the Hail Mary, which they never should have had a chance to even be a part of.
Yeah.
James Cook looked great. The defense finally, again, they had some guys back again. Another injury. They've lost again Michael Hoyt for the season, who looked great out there again. Just came off a 6-game suspension, now tears his Achilles. So the Bills are just snake bitten, like a lot of teams with like the Niners, with their defenses, and it's just now you just gotta hope you can hold on. We're not even halfway; we're just halfway through the season, so like God knows who's going to be playing for them come holiday. They don't have a bye, so I think great win for Buffalo. They needed it, especially with the Patriots, the way they look, and the Chiefs now kind of in desperation mode. They still got some tough games. They got to play Denver again next. I think they got the they could probably take the Chargers, but I think the Chiefs are gonna have a little dogfight to win that division.
I think so. We'll talk about the final game, which was the Cardinals just putting the boots to Dallas Cowboys, 27-17. Jacoby Brissett, Murray's going to be out again this week, and Brissett, you're looking like, well, why don't we just have this guy? He can see over the line. He was excited. He was getting the ball going. He was hitting Harrison. I mean, he was stringing this ball around, and the Cowboys defense had nothing for it. The Cowboys offense had nothing for it. And I think I read a record that the Cardinals have beaten them like 8 times in a row or something like that. And they beat them again. Cowboys couldn't get any victory here. And Cowboys now 3-5-1, and the Cardinals 3-5, but they would have been 2-6 had they lost this. But they get the win here in an exciting Monday night game.
Well, I just think it just spells the end of Kyler Murray. I think that this indicates they put him on injured reserve now. I think they're going to try and trade him in the offseason. Again, he's been on the team for a while now. He was not part of the original kind of coaching staff or GM now. They would probably want their own guy. They've seen this guy for a couple of years now. It's not working. It's never kind of worked. It has its moments every now and then, but he's small. He gets injured. He doesn't run as much for a fast guy, and he's just doesn't win. He's just not winning games. And I just think it's the end. I think you'll now see Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. have better seasons because Briskett's been good. He's been really competent. Everywhere he goes, you kind of give him some weapons. The guy can go out there and play. And I think it doesn't really bode well because you're not going to really do any damage with Brissett. But to me, though, this thing just signals the end of the Kyler Murray era. So he'll be interested to see what team trades for him next year. What do you give up for someone like Kyler?
Who's that desperate? And would he be willing to accept a backup role? Because that could be something he'd have to look at. I don't think you
trade for him to be a backup. I think he gets a starting role because there's so many bad quarterbacks out there, bad teams with quarterbacks. I think you give maybe even somewhere to compete, on a cheaper deal. So they'll try and trade.
Well, let's get into our Week 10 picks now, because we'll start with our Thursday night football game, which is the battle of the AFC West. The 2-6 Las Vegas Raiders are limping into Mile High Stadium, where Denver is 7-2. 3 teams 7-2, including the Patriots, who are leading the AFC North. But Denver 7-2, and they're 8.5-point favorites in a 43-point over/under in this one. Tough win for them last week, but now you've got an easier opponent. You're at home against a team that's, as we said, traded away your best wide receiver. Are we going to see it on the faces of the Raiders? They just done, and the Broncos ready to go because their defense is coming on board. 8.5-point favorites. Too much or not enough?
I just think the Raiders are done. I think they're going to find it really hard with no weapons to kind of go against this this Broncos team. I just don't see. I just don't see. I think the Broncos are riding high. They know they got a stranglehold on the division. I think they kind of just come and put the boot down. Try and run it. They've had a good running game. RJ Harvey's looked a bit more competent.
Hmm.
And yeah, I just think this is an easy game. I'm gonna go 30-17 for the Broncos. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
You just go. I'm just going to.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on this one. I think that it's one of those things that, I mean, if you look at the history of it all, the Raiders have won 8 of the past 10 meetings, which does make you think this line is a little bit high. But when you start looking at it, I just have to go with Denver. I don't think there's anything left in the excitement of the Raiders. There's nothing that's going to make them feel good. So I am also going to go with Denver to win this one. I've got it 28-13. I just can't see that there's any way that Vegas has anything. And I mean, it's all going to be the Max Crosby show as he's just running around trying to get things going. So I can't see any win. I can't see any way that Vegas gets anything here. 28-13 is what I've got as well, even though the history of it all. Move into our game in Germany, in Berlin. We're heading to Berlin, and they actually got not a bad game as this one at the start of the season would have looked like a pile of steaming dog scheisse. But we've got Atlanta 3-5, who have just, what the hell are they doing? Kind of, you're up and down. Going into Indianapolis, who are 7-2. Indianapolis losing last week to the Steelers, but they're 5.5 points at home. 48.5 points is the over and under in this one. Heading off to Germany, as we know with international games, well, that's being London based. How do you like Indianapolis rebounding after taking that loss last week to the Steelers?
I mean, I just think you're playing a Falcons team that just has no identity. It's going to be really hard for that. I think coming off a loss, I think if the Colts would have won last week, it's hard to pick the Falcons because they just, again, last week, missing that extra point. They did kind of hold their own with New England, fought back. Drake London looked really good. But to me, I just think it's that defense, which can put some pressure on and make it tough. But I think I'm just going to go with the better team. I just like the Colts. I like Jonathan Taylor to kind of keep his thing going and kind of just keep dominating. And I just don't know what Penix is right now. I think he's just Drake London dependent. And if they can't get Bijan going, being this kind of dominant player, then I think it's just going to be a tough sledding. So I'm going to go with the Colts to win 27-20.
Oh, okay. I've got the Colts to win as well. I think a bit of a rebound game in terms of this one. It's just they've taken that L last week, and again, I don't know what's going to happen here. They're pretty good at shutting down the run, so Bijan's going to have a tough game. And also playing in Germany, I'm always going to bet the under on this one. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I've got Indianapolis to win 21-10. I think not too many points being scored because no one wants to get hurt in Berlin. It's going to be a quick one and out and come back. Getting into our 1 o'clock game.
But before you go, I got to pick up my kid in 20 something minutes. We went a bit long at the front, so I didn't think we were going to go so long. So we need to kind of speed up on the little
all right,
games.
Speed it up. Here we go. We're going to speed it up. Let's go into Cleveland is 2-6. The Jets are 1-7. Horrible game. 37 points over under. Jets are giving away to stuff. Cleveland, who wins this one?
Well, I don't need to go this fast. We can kind of talk. This is a nightmare. If you're the Jets, how do you see the Jets scoring any points? Now the Browns, this actually feels like a good thing for Dillon Gabriel. He might have no one to worry about. He can actually throw it down the field because this guy sucks. Every time I watch Dillon Gabriel, I just get mad because again, unless like Shedeur is just like sleeping with Stefanski's wife, I don't understand how he's not on the field right now because he has to be better than this. And why are you doing this? If you have a guy in Shedeur, at least give him a shot, give him a couple games. I feel like this has to be only a couple weeks more left. If Gabriel can't get it done against a Jets team that just traded away their best defensive players, then I just don't see any time he gets it done. I think Quentin Judkins has a big game. And I'm going to go with the Browns to win 24-10.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Jets were 1-point favorites when this line opened, and they traded away their best people, and they dropped to 2-point underdogs for Cleveland. I've got Cleveland win this one 24-16. It's going to be a struggle for them. You're going to wonder who's going to be the pieces here for the Jets. Who do they have running anything? I just don't like it. I think Cleveland's going to feel good about this one. The Jets versus Cincinnati was an exciting game. I don't think this one will be as exciting just based on Cleveland's going to have the motivation and the defense. Head into Carolina, who have got a winning record. They're 5-4, and they're 5.5 point favorites over a New Orleans team who got blown out by the Rams last weekend in LA. 40 points is the over/under. Rico Dowdle has been doing it all for them, making Bryce Young's life a lot easier. Can this be another easy victory for the Carolina Panthers, or is New Orleans going to put up a bit of a fight?
I mean, you saw New Orleans live. Like, what's your thoughts? Like,
Yeah.
do you think they have any fight? Again, they only were able to put up 10 points. Again, this is just a Panthers team that's just going to do what they do, and they're just going to have to run their way into the playoffs because I just don't think, again, Bryce is fine, but he's never going to pick you apart for 300. This is Rico Dowdle's team, his offense. The defense looks decent, but again, they don't they beat the Packers, so you got to kind of give them some credit. They were able to kind of shut down Jordan Love. They should have no problem with this. I think the fact that the Carolina is looking at 6-4 right here, if they win this, I think there's a huge
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for them. That I don't think anyone at the beginning of the season thought 10 games in we're looking at a 6-4 Panthers team, especially with the numbers that Bryce Young has put up this year. So, but I just think they're better. I'm going to go that they win 21-10 to 9 to 9. I don't even think
21-9. Oh wow. Yeah, I think New Orleans is not as bad as people think. Sure, they've given away Shaheed, but they got Olave and they got some running game. But their defense is playing a little tough. I think 5.5 points is just too much for me. I can't give Carolina that when they haven't really won by that much, and they've also gotten blown out before. So I've got Carolina to win 21-19. I can't bet on 5.5 points for this Carolina squad, even though they are at home. It just seems too much, and I think the Saints. They're still going to play. They've got some coaching there, and I think Kellen Moore is going to be motivating these guys. So yeah, I've got Carolina to win, but the Saints cover. Let's head on Miami. Miami didn't make a lot of trade moves, didn't get a lot of people, but they're 2-7, and Buffalo is 9.5 point favorites. Buffalo 6-2, getting a win, but when you look at the having New England, who is 7-2, you got to start wondering what you can do. Buffalo 9.5 point favorites. The over/under is 50 points in this one. Buffalo has always had a little bit of a trouble going into Miami at this time of year. Do you think Buffalo will struggle, or do you think they're just going to crush Miami?
I mean, they should have the confidence coming off of the Chiefs win. I feel like if you can't be confident coming off of that game, and kind of what they really need to do is still to get the receivers going. They got Dalton Kincaid, who looks great. James Cook, who's kind of banged up now. He's been a bit injured in practice this week. So do they even sit him this week? Because it's the Dolphins. They just try and be like, can we just get away with one game, let them rest up? Because they think Josh Allen's beaten this team enough times. I just think Dolphins have given up. I think no matter what they do, it just like even when they have a game where they look like they got a bit of fight left in them, like against Atlanta, then the next week they're just terrible against Baltimore. And I think Josh Allen has a big game. I think he just always has a big game against them, and I just don't see it anyway. The Dolphins kind of. So I'm gonna go 27-18 for the Bills.
Yeah, I mean, historically, as I said, this fall game that you go in and Buffalo sort of struggles, and I think it used to be historically because they would meet their girlfriends. You leave your wives at home, meet your girlfriends in Miami, and have some fun and party, which is why the scores were usually low. But I think Buffalo's got the motivation in this one. I see them putting up a lot of points in it, 33-18. And I don't know what's going to happen with McDaniel, who he's going to yell at, who he's going to look at the blank stares for, but it's going to be another devastating loss for them. It is heading into a Houston team who we've seen struggle. Davis Mills will be under center. Originally, it was Houston favored. Now it's Jacksonville favored by 1. Jacksonville 5-3. Houston 3-5. 37.5 points is the over/under. I think the line changed because of having Davis Mills, but is this going to matter? I mean, obviously they've got Jacoby Meyer, which is going to help. I don't know how quickly he'll be into the play schematics and all of that, but Jacksonville could really use this divisional win. They get it? Will they win by more than 1?
No, I'm gonna go with the Texans. I think the Texans defense is good enough to kind of just shut this team down. Like you saw, again, the fact that Davis will have another week at practice with the guys, he's done this before. He's had decent games. He's at home in a friendly environment, not going up against a great defense, like a good defense, but not a great defense. A Jags team that, again, they didn't score against the Raiders. They almost lost. So they're going up against a much, much tougher defense, a defense that, yes, they know, but the Texans have been making everyone look bad. So imagine what they're going to do to Trevor Lawrence, who's kind of makes himself look bad each week. I just think I think it's going to be an ugly, low-scoring game. I am not going to. This is like the last box on the corner TV box, the corner TV game,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna go 2017 for the Texans to win.
I'm actually with you on this one. I've got Houston. I think there's an ability when you have backup quarterbacks play above their potential because they are. It's a bit of an audition. They've been watching everything. Hey, put me in, coach. And he's been jiving, as we said. Davis Mills has been sort of he's been a longevity guy here at Houston. So I can see him really motivating this team. And again, the defense you talked about is going to make life difficult. I don't think Jacoby Myers is going to be able to settle into the scheme as quickly as he can. He's a young guy. So I've got Houston to win at 23-21. Baltimore, 4-point favorites heading into Minnesota. Minnesota obviously taking a big loss against Detroit last week. Baltimore trying to get some of their pieces together, and Lamar was looking good. They're 3-5, 4-point favorites heading into a Minnesota team who's 4-4. 48.5 is the over/under. We saw Flores likes to mix things up in this game. So you wonder what's going to happen with Baltimore, if they're going to be able to get Derrick Henry going, and what kind of blitzes they're going to throw, because that's sort of Flores' specialty. Do you like Baltimore here, or what about Minnesota at home when they rebound?
I like Baltimore to go on a run. I think, again, they scored 28 points last week against, they were playing Miami. They weren't really competitive. I think this is going to be a tough game for the Raiders, especially the fact that they were able to kind of shut down Detroit's high-powered offense. And Flores is going to come at Lamar, but Lamar's seen it all. You can cover him with all the blitzes you want. Very rarely are you containing him. You're more frustrating him when he can't pass and you're kind of stopping his running lanes and everything. But if you're just blitzing him, I think Lamar makes you pay a lot because he's one of the hardest guys to take down when you blitz. And the fact that they have Derrick Henry, which can make your life hell, hasn't been as dominant this year, but I think he's still been really good. And Ravens know they got to win. They got to win. And I'm not going to bet on J.J. McCarthy to beat Lamar Jackson ever in football. And I need to see J.J. McCarthy have more than one good game in a row. So if he can do it again, the fact that he's at home, which is good. But I'm going Ravens to win. I'm going to go 27-23.
A little push there. I've got Baltimore to win this one. It's won 26-20. I think J.J. McCarthy falls back down to earth. He seems to have that one good game, one bad game, and this will be it. The motivation is going to be with the Ravens, what they do, what they're going to move around. Flores will be able to stop it, but I think King Henry is going to have a good game on this one as well. So I've got 26-20. Heading into Tampa Bay, they're hosting a New England team. This is going to be a great game. I think Sky is showing this game. New England is 7-2. Tampa Bay is 6-2. They're coming off a bye. Godwin might be back. Mbuka will probably be back. And of course Mike Evans out for the season. 6-2. Tampa Bay 2.5-point favorites in this one. 48.5 over under 1:00 game. Will Drake May continue to move on and impress for his potential MVP run, or will Baker Mayfield throw it down and keep it tough for them?
I'm gonna go with the Bucks. I'm gonna go with the Bucks, not because I'm a Patriot hater. That's separate. That's always there. I'm going it because the Bucks have had 2 weeks to prepare. I think Baker. They're hopefully they're gonna get a bit healthy. Maybe they said Godwin will be back, but again, we don't know. Bucky Irving, Godwin. Godwin hasn't really done much. It's been more Ibuka, and I think it doesn't really matter. Baker's just kind of got such command of this offense that he can kind of pick you apart, kind of like the way Shanahan does with his quarterbacks. Baker's kind of like that guy. He's like, I don't care who my receivers are. I'm gonna get him the ball. If I gotta run it myself, I'm gonna do it. And I think the fact that Drake May is going to be on the road against Todd Bowles' defense is going to want to come at him. And again, the Patriots had a few injuries on receiver. I think Butte went down if he's not fully healthy. Stephon Diggs still on a snap count, and Ramondre's hurt, and even TreVeyon Henderson didn't look as we've all been waiting for everyone who drafted him in fantasy. Still waiting for TreVeyon Henderson kind of step up. Yeah. But I think Drake May kind of makes this a shootout. I think this game comes down to the wire. I think it's going to be really fun. I just think Drake May's really good. He's a great quarterback to watch. I hate that he's a Patriot, but I got to respect his game so far this year. So I'm going to go Bucks win 27-24.
Yeah, I'm with you on a close game here. I got Tampa Bay to win this one 30-26. I think the Patriots have had a bit of an easy schedule, and now playing a tough team like this, it's going to shake it up a bit. Getting some of these Buccaneers players back, and obviously for them, the motivation, knowing that they were, sort of slated as one of the best teams, I think they're going to put it together. And, Baker in fantasy, I think is going to have a good day. Head to our final 1:00 game as the New York Giants are 2-8. They've lost Scatabo, and they've lost a few of their other talent as well, and they're heading into Chicago, who put up a lot of points. Chicago 5-3, 5.5, 4.5 point favorites in this one. 47 points over under. We're in Soldier Field. Will my Bears win, or do you think the Giants are going to give us a scare?
I'm gonna go with the Giants. I am going with a little upset.
Ooh.
I just think I think the Giants, first of all, number one, have a way better front four than uh, than the Bengals did. So I don't think Caleb's gonna have this dominant game where he's throwing the ball around the yard. I think they're gonna be able to make him hold on to it, get some sacks, maybe force some turnovers. Jackson Dart's been pretty competent. Like he has his moments up and down, but he's able to run. And the fact that all these yards have just been able to kind of come on you guys. I think, Dayball's fighting for his job, and I think the Bears coming off kind of a lucky win. I think kind of maybe just get accidentally just punched in the face, not ready for it. So I think every now and then there's like a big upset game of the week, and I think this is the one. I think Giants kind of some bad losses and some unlucky games the last couple of weeks. And I think Jackson Dart's been pretty decent as a rookie quarterback. I think you got to be happy with him if you're a Giants fan. So I'm going to go little fun upset 24-23 for the Giants.
I don't see a fun upset at all. I see a Chicago victory as we romp on again, putting up loads of points as we have. Hopefully we don't get scored a lot. That front of the Giants is tough, but I think that Caleb is able to dip and dive and dump this ball off. 33-24, I've got the Bears winning. 4 o'clock slate. Sorry, excuse me. We only have a few games here. Arizona 3-5, Seattle 6-2, Seattle 6.5 points. They're rolling on. Sam Darnold was near perfect last week. 44.5 points is the over/under at home. Despite Arizona's heroics last week, do they have a chance against Seattle at home?
No, I just think Seattle's rolling, right? They're feeling themselves. Strong, good defense. Now they don't have to worry about a fast, a quarterback who can scramble. They got a statue in Brissett, so Mike McDonald's defense is really just going to come at them, blitz them, make them beat you. Just let them throw. They got Trey McBride, they got Marvin Harrison, but Seahawks got just a really solid team right now, and I think Darnold's feeling himself, and the Cardinals D is just not that good. I think this game's a bit closer because I just think division games are weird. Sometimes they just kind of know each other. They play each other a million times. But the way Jackson Smith and Jig was playing, I just can't pick the Cardinals to cover. And I am going to go with a 10-point win, 30-20 for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I've got a 27-20. I just can't see it. I think, it's going to be a nice option. And I think Shaheed's going to fit in nicely with his team. The running game is still very good. Arizona came off an emotional win last week in Dallas. I think they're going to be a bit exhausted, too, because it was a Monday night game. So you don't have as much rest in this, where Seattle's a bit rested. 27-20. Washington is 3-6, and they're hosting a Detroit team who's 5-3. 9-point favorites is Detroit. 49.5 is the over/under. Detroit taking that divisional loss to the Vikings last week. Will they be angry coming into Washington, where everything seems to be falling apart?
Yeah, I mean, again, Lions coming. You don't want to play Dan Campbell coming off a loss. I feel like that's the guy you don't want to do. He comes angry, gets his team really playing, especially after Dan Quinn just got his quarterback's arm ripped off for leaving him in the game, and now he's just stuck with the Commanders again. It's a big worry. We've talked about it for years that Jay Daniels just looks small, and I don't know if he can take the beatings of an NFL season. He's got to bulk up or something, because this is becoming common now. This year's been a disaster this year, and this is going to become a thing that dogs him if it happens next year and it happens again, especially when you have an old, aging team like they do. It's a bit of a nightmare. I think the Commanders stand no chance. I think that Dan Campbell goes scorched earth on them and just lays a beating down on the Commanders. So I'm going to go 34-13 for the Lions.
Yeah, I can see Detroit coming back again. It all depends on some of the injuries. They do have some injuries on this Detroit squad after last week. They got a bit mangled up, but I still like their chances here. I've got it 28-16. Detroit, atones for that loss that they had and the frustrating loss against that defense. I don't think there'll be as many slowdowns in this one. Washington doesn't really have anything. I don't think McLaurin will be back for a couple weeks either, so no one to throw the ball to. Heading into a divisional game here, we've got the Rams 6-2, 3.5-point favorites heading into the 49ers, who are 6-3. These two teams played each other a few weeks ago, and the result was not in the favor of the Rams. 49ers, underdogs in this one. They've lost more guys to injury in this one. McCaffrey's, though, back. How do you like the chances for the 49ers at home or the Rams with a 4.5-point spread? Sorry, it's 4.5 now. How do you like that spread?
I just like the Rams. I like the way Stafford plays. I like the way the defense is playing. I think the Niners. If I'm gonna pick Matt Stafford versus Mac Jones, I'm going Matt Stafford all day, especially with McVay. As good as Shanahan is against him, he's also lost Bosa. He's lost, Fred Warner. He's injured everywhere. Pearsall's Ayuk. So I mean, the Rams. They always struggle. I think with the Niners, or one of I can't remember which one. One of them has a terrible record against the other, and I always mix the
Yeah.
two up. So I'm gonna go with the Rams. I just think they're on fire right now. They look good. They got Puka back. They're just gonna feed him. Just again, targets after
Yeah.
targets. And it just opens everything up for Devontae Adams. They're just a great team. I like the Rams as probably the best team in the NFC right now. So I
Yeah.
think they take it. I'm going to go 30-23 for the Rams.
Yeah, I think they took them too lightly last time. I think they overlooked the Rams did, and I think that's one of those games where like, no, okay, this time we put you away. Too many injuries on the 49ers. They're going to throw a bit of schemes at them, but Matt Stafford is just lighting guys up. They'll get the running game going as well. The defense is playing, so I'm with you, 27-18. Heading into our Sunday night game, Pittsburgh 5-3. Heading into LA, Chargers are 6-3. They're 3-point favorites, but Joe Alt is out again. We wonder they've made some trades, but is it going to be enough to protect themselves? Chargers at home favored by 3. Pittsburgh flying high. Who do you like in this game?
I'm going to take the Steelers. I think the Chargers, I think Steelers coming off that good defensive game, it's going to give them a little bit of motivation. I think they're sitting with Baltimore nipping at their heels, and the Chargers kind of just too many injuries. I think it just kind of after a while, there's only so long you can get away with losing your best two tackles. It's going to catch up to you, and I think Tomlin's. The fact that it's in Chargers, that place is going to be full of Steelers fans. It's going to feel like a home game anyway. And I think
Yeah.
Rodgers kind of has a good game and in the prime time, be able to kind of throw it around. I'm going to go with the Steelers to win 24-20.
Yeah, I'm with Steelers to win in this one. I think they're getting some of Khalil Mack and some of the defensive players are coming back for the Chargers. So I think it's going to keep the score down a little bit. So I've got it 21-20 Pittsburgh winning, but Aaron Rodgers getting his other win. Chargers, without Joe Alt and that offensive line, there's going to be a lot of pressure, and Steelers getting that defense together. All right, let's head into our last game. Final game, Philadelphia 6-2, Green Bay 5-2-1. We're at Lambeau again, where they lost to Carolina last week. They were 2.5-point favorites going into this one, and they still are 2.5-point favorites. 44.5 is the over/under. Philadelphia making some big trades. Is Green Bay rightly so to be favored at home?
No, I don't think so. Again, and not after last week losing Tucker Kraft. I think the Eagles coming off a bye. The Eagles, I believe. Okay,
Yeah,
this week.
yeah.
So they're going to have a lot of time. I just think this is a bad spot for the Packers. I think their confidence got a little bit shot last week, and I think playing the Eagles with extra time to prepare is the worst situation to come back in. But I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a really fun game. But I'm going to go with the Eagles to win 24-23. I think it'll be kind of not really a shootout. I just think the Packers are going to struggle to kind of move the ball, especially without Kraft. And the Eagles are just, let's see what they can do now, coming off the bye. Can they get A.J. Brown going? Can they get the offense going? But Saquon finally had his kind of breakout game a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to go with I think the Eagles win this.
Yeah, I got the Eagles to win it as well, 77-3. Just a Bears fan speaking. I think Philadelphia romps them. I think Philadelphia is going to get the lead in it. Jordan Love is going to make mistakes, and against that defense, a new and improved defense, especially the secondary, I think it's going to be tough. He's going to start throwing some balls around and get picked off. So Philadelphia 26, Green Bay 17. Folks, that's it for this week of NFL in London. We've done our review and our preview. Enjoy the Week 10 games. If you're going to Germany, enjoy that game. Send us some pictures. Folks, thanks for listening, and enjoy NFL Week 10.